Hello everyone, and in this video we are going to discuss about Laravel Blade Components. So first we will learn about Laravel Blade Components, and then we will create this design in the Laravel Blade Components. So we created this design in the last video. So if you want to know how we created this design, watch that video. Otherwise we will recreate this design by using Laravel Blade Components. So let's start. So first of all, here we will come to the resources and views folder, and here we will create a component folder. So components, and inside this folder we will create a new file that will be our component. So let's say I want to create a post component, so post.blade.php, and let's create a div inside and h1 tag, and let's write welcome to Laravel Blade Components. And now we need to use this component somewhere. So if we come here, so we are loading this file by default. And now in the home URL, so I will just remove everything from here. And now if I refresh the page, you will see nothing is here. So now I will use this component here. So in order to use the component, we need to write here x dash. So before using any component, you will write x dash and then the name of the component so that Laravel knows about it, that this is a component, and then the name of the component. So in our case, the name of the component is post. So x dash post, and that's set. So now we are using this component. So now if I refresh the page, you can see welcome to Laravel Blade Components, which is this message. Okay. Now let's say we want to pass a variable to this component. So how can I do that? So we want to show the title of the post. So here we will say $title. And now if we refresh, you can see an error here, undefined variable title, because we haven't passed any variable to the component. So let's pass this title variable here. So we will write title is equal to welcome to components. And remember, when you are passing a string variable, then you don't need to write here the $sign. So now if I refresh here, you can see welcome to components. Okay. So you don't need to write here the $sign. But let's say we are passing the post controller. Okay. So in the post controller, we are finding all of the post, and then we are passing this post variable here to this view. Okay. So now if I just equal this component, this variable, so post, and let's refresh, and now you can see we have a post with ID1 with the test post title. Okay. Now we have another post with ID2 and test post 2. Okay. So we have these two post and this variable. So how can we use this variable now inside this component? So now let me remove this first, and we will write post is equal to, and if you write here like this $force, so this is a string, so this will be considered as a string. So now if I refresh, and now let me echo this out in the component. So let's say feed, So inside this fee tag, if I write here $post, and now if I refresh, so you can see post string. So this $post is just considered as a string, not as a variable. So how can we do that? Let me close this one. So here, when you are passing a variable, so here we just need to write the full colon. So now you saw the color has been changed. Okay, so if I remove this, it is considered as a string. Now if I write the full colon, so now the color is changed. So now Laravel knows that this is a variable, not a string. So now if I refresh, you can see the data of that variable. Okay, so if you want to pass the variable, so you need to write the full colon before, so that it is considered as a variable. Okay, so now let's say I want to get the first post, and let's get the title of the first post. Now let's refresh, and you can see test post. Okay, and this way you can use variables. So now let me remove this. Now we can pass any amount of different variables to this component, and we can use it here. Okay, but what if we want to restrict it so that we don't pass any variables that is not needed, or we pass the required variable? So now let's say we don't want this title, but anyway we are passing it, so we want to restrict it. So how will we do that? So here in the component we will write get props, and let's say I will just pass the post variable. So here is as well, in this array we will pass just the post, not the title. So now if we refresh the page, you can see undefined variable title because we are using it, and even though we are passing it here, but we are setting, so we are only allowing the post variable, not the title. So if I write here the title, and now let's refresh, and now you can see there is no error. But if I remove that, then you will see the error because we haven't passed that and we restricted it. Okay, so now it is not allowed. Now let's loop through this. So at for each, so for each post, so dollar post is dollar post, and let's remove the s from here and move this inside. Okay, and let's remove the s from here as well. Now let's remove the title because we don't need it, and now we'll change the name. So remove the s and remove the s here, and here we will say dollar post title. So we need the title of the post, and here we will say dollar post body. So we need the body of the post. So now if I refresh, you can see two different posts. So test post 1 and test post 2. Okay. So in this way you can use components, and it is a lot cleaner. Okay. Now you can use slots. So what is a slot? So inside this, so let me remove this, and here let's say we want to write it like this. So dollar title. So if you want to pass some HTML or something here, And let's remove the h1 tag as well, so you can see the difference. So we are just figuring out the title here. So we will use this as a slot. So now, if you are using slots, that then you need to change this and you need to close it like this. And here for the slot, we will pass the variables. Okay, you will pass the HTML or whatever. Okay, so let's say here we want h1, and here we need to write $post and the title. And let's close this. And before that, we need to write here x dash slot, and then here close that slot. But we need to name it. So now if I refresh, you have an error. Okay, so now let's write here name and name it is title. And now let's refresh. So now you can see there is no error and no problem here. So we are passing this HTML tag as well. So we are passing the h1 from here. Let's say if I want to pass another thing, let's say h4, and inside this h4 I want to write $post and created it. So created it. So the date at which that post has been created. So now if I refresh, you can see the date. Okay, so in this way, if you want to pass the HTML as well, then you will need to pass it by using this slot. Okay, now there is another thing. So let's say if you want to pass the body as well, so let's say body. So we need to write here $slot. So this will be the default slot. Okay, so this is a default slot, and this is a named slot. So now here, if you want to pass some data to this, then we will just write here let's say fee tag and $post, and what is the body? So the body of the post. And now let's refresh, remove the fee tag from here. And now let's refresh. Now you can see the same thing, but if I inspect it, so here you can see the test post. So we pass the HTML as well, the h1 tag and the h4 tag. Okay, and here insert this. So we don't have a fee here, we don't have h tags h1 or h4 here, but we are passing it from these places. So this, if you don't mention it, this is a default slot. So we don't need to name it. So now if I remove this slot and refresh, and you can see the title and the date, but you don't see the body of the post because we have passed it, but Laravel doesn't know where to place that content. So for that reason, we need to place it here. Now if I remove this, and now let's refresh. So you can see the body of the post, but not the title. Okay. Why? Because Laravel doesn't know where to place it. So here is the title slot, and this is a name slot, and the default slot is dollar slot. Okay. So I think you got the concept now. So if you want just to pass a variable, you can use the earlier method. If you want to pass some HTML as well, then you can use this method. Okay. Now, this is not the only way to create a component like this. So this is one way. And now if I create a component through the command line, so how can I do that? So PHP artisan make component, and here I will write the name of the component. So let's say if I write first item. So if I write first item, a component has been created successfully. Okay. So now let me remove this, and if I want to create it inside a folder, so how can I do that? So let me remove that. But before removing it, here you can see we have created a new folder view, and here we have created a components and post item. So when you run this command, you will create two things. You will create a view, this is called a view, and you will create a class. So now if I open it, you can see first item, and here you can see we have two methods, so a constructor and a render. So the render just render this post item and where it is in the components folder. Okay, and here we can define the variables. I'll show it to you in a moment, but just wait. So, and here the naming, so you can see first item, so the P is capital and the I is capital, but here you can see the first item, so there is a dash in it. So post and item, and there is a dash in it. Okay, so this is called the kebab case. So this is the Laravel convention. So now let me close this and delete this folder and delete this file, and now let's recreate it inside the folder. So if I say PHP artisan make a component which is the post item, but create it inside the folder which is the post. So post with this, so post item, so this post item will be created inside this folder. Now create it, and now you can see created successfully, and here we created a folder inside this component, and now you can see the same file here. Okay, and similarly we have created a view folder again, components, post, and first item. Okay, so now let's say if you want to use the same thing here again as well. Okay, so how can I do that? So let me copy all of these things from here to this post item. Okay, and paste it here, and here inside this index file. So we don't want to use the post, so this one. So if you want to use the post item, so how can we do that? So let's say x dash posts. So this is the folder now, and dot, and we want to use the first item. Okay, so first item, and now let's refresh, and you can see the same thing here. Okay, so in this way you can use the folders inside components. Okay, now what about all of those variables things and those things, and what about this one? Yeah, so now here we are passing the first variables. Okay, so let me open this first item here, and let's create a variable here. So let's say public, and let's say dollar title, and let's pass the title. So dollar title, and now let's so dollar this and title is equal to dollar title. Now if we refresh, let me close this one first. So you can see unresolvable dependency, okay? So title is not available because we haven't passed the title here, okay? So we haven't passed the title, so that's why we are getting the error. So now let me change this to post and post single, okay? So post and then this as well, post and post. And you can edit all of these together as well. So now say okay, available dependency post is required, but we have passed the post variable here, index. We already passed that. So now let me write here feature design. Optimize clear so that we clear the cache and everything. So now everything is cleared, and now let's refresh, and now you can see. So if you encountered this problem, then you can just write this command so that cache and everything is clear, and then you can. So sometimes this problem will occur, okay? So now let's write here. So here we don't have the problem here, okay? So now let's say post item, and let's change that again. So now if I refresh, still we have this dependency, the same error. What if we change it to first? Then now let's refresh, and you can see. So you can use both of the methods, okay? So it's the same thing. So whether you want to create it with the class or whether you want to do it by using the props, okay? So the choice is yours. Okay. Now what if you want just to create a view file here and not the class? So here, if I want just to create a view, so PHP artisan make component, and let's name it test, and we just want the view. So we only want this file here, the view. So we have created a component, and this is just here test.blade.php. But here if you see, you don't have the test class, okay? Now let me remove this. And what if I want just to create this class file and don't want to create it? So here you can say PHP artisan make component, and instead of view we will write here inline. So we will create an inline component. So now you can see we don't have this test component here, but here if we come we have the test component, and this is, now let me close this. Now this is the inline component. So here you will define your variables, and here you will write your HTML, okay? So everything will be here in the same file. So there are basically three methods, and I showed it to you that would, and the choice is yours, which one you want to choose, okay? So now let me close this and delete this. Okay. So in this way, you can use components. So you learned about slots and passing variables and everything. Now let's create the design that I showed you in the start of the video. So how can I create the design? So now let's come to this components. And now let me delete everything. So from here and here, I will just leave this post item. So let me delete this file. We are not confused. And inside this component, I will create a file that will be called layout file. So layout.blade.php. And inside this layout file, I will just copy the other file that we have already created in the last tutorial. So partials, it's not here. So layouts. So this is the old file that we have created. Okay. So this is just all the HTML of the design. So Control Alt copy. And now let's paste it here. So here this is just the basic HTML and Bootstrap. So we are rendering two things. We are rendering the feature post and the contents. Okay. So now how can we do that? Okay, so this will be the default slot. So here I will just remove this and here I will write $slot so that we will place our contents here. Okay. Now let's create some more components. Here let's use this empty one so that you know index. So now let's remove this from here and here let's write x dash and then the name of the component. So what is the name of the component? Layout. Okay. And we are using slots, so I will close that like this. So now if I refresh, you can see this empty design. Okay, so here we will include everything now. So now we just need to create this post item. Okay, so we have already created this one. So let me copy this post item from here. Let me first show it to you. So x dash and the name of the folder is post and the name of the file is post dash item. Okay, and now let's close it. So what is inside this post item? So now this file. So we have all of these things. Now let me refresh and you can see undefined variable title. Okay, so we haven't defined this. So now let me copy all of this code from here and we need to pass only the post variable here. Okay, so now let me close this and yeah. So now let's just paste everything here and now inside this, so we need to pass the post. So now let me write the add for each loop again. So add for each and $post is $post. Okay, and now keep this inside here and as I told you, you will write post and pass the post. So $post. So now if we refresh and so we are seeing the list of the post. So now here is the feature post. So now let's include the feature post. So now let's create a new file here. Okay, so new file, and we will name it featured post dot blade dot php. You can create it like this or in the by using the command line. So your choice is yours, and let's use this file. So copy the HTML from here and pass it to the feature post. So in the feature post, copy, paste. So now this is the feature post, and here let's say we need to use this. Okay, so if we come to the layout file here, so let's change this first. Okay, so here we will create a slot. So x to dollar slot. So what will be the slot here? That will be dollar feature post. Featured post. Okay, so featured post. I will just write featured, and here I will say x dash slot. And what will be the name of this slot? So the name of this slot will be featured. So this is the slot that we want, and we will pass HTML. So by passing HTML, we will just pass the component. So what is this component? So we will pass just this one. Okay. So now let's write here x dash featured component featured post. And where is this post? Okay. So this post is in the post. So let's write the folder name. So posts dot featured post, and what variable we need. So we need to pass the variable post is equal to dollar post, and we need to write here the full column. Okay, and now let's write it like this, and now let's refresh. So now you can see the featured post. So we have successfully recreated that whole design. This is our featured post, and this is the list of the post. Okay, so now if I click on this, we will go to the show post this page. So now let's redesign this page. Okay, so how can we do that? So now if we come here to this file, it is still using the old layout file. Okay, this one. So now let's recreate it. So I will just copy this from here and paste everything here. But here we don't need to write the feature post. Okay. So now let's remove that. And we will have only a single post, so we don't need this. So remove this one. And here we will have post and dollar post. Okay. And now let's create the show post. So the single post, this one. So single post. This is for the single post. So let me copy it. Create a component here. Not the folder. So the file. So this will be single post or show post, something like that. So let's write show post dot blade dot php, and now let's paste it here. Okay, so this is just requires the post variable because we have only single post. Now let's come here and we are passing it. So now let's see it here and featured undefined variable featured post. So now you can see in the layout file here we have this featured post that is required, but we don't need to provide it here in the show post because we don't need the featured post. We only need to show a single post. So how can I do that? So here we will write it is set $featured and only then show it, otherwise don't show it. Okay, so now if I refresh, you can see this one. Okay, so we haven't changed the name of the component, so let's change the name of the component. So post, so show post, and now let's refresh, and now you can see so that show post component. Okay, so now here we don't need to show the featured post, so that's why I wrote here in the layout file, if it is defined, if it is set, then show it, otherwise don't set it. Okay, now if I go back, here we have the feature post, but if I come here, let's say to this one, here we don't have. Okay, so in this way you can create a layout. Now you can further divide and create more components by styling and everything, but you got the basic idea, so that now you can play with it and create components. Okay, so you can create, let's say, create some panels for the styles, and if you need to reuse those styles, so you just include that component and use the slot and use that other component inside this component. So you will use a single style. Okay, but I will leave it here. So that's all about components. And there is another thing. So if you want to pass classes, so how can you do that? So now if I want to, let's go to the Laravel and start it in here. Let's write components. So if you here come here to the documentation, you can see all of the different things about components. Okay, so I told you most of the things that you will use normally. So everything. Okay, the components, attributes. Okay, everything. If you want to pass some attributes, okay, you want to merge classes. So if you have a class and the component, okay, so let's say you have classes here in this article, but if you want to pass some classes from here, then you will use this attributes merge class and these things. Okay, so if you want to read further about components, then you can read this documentation. So that's all about components, and see you in the next video.